wonderful and esteemed friends. This is your host, Reverend Dr. Shem Giki from Grace and the Truth Desk. Grace and the Truth Desk is a Christian channel, as I've always said, based on John chapter 1, verse number 7. This channel will always endeavor to remain graciously truthful on no matters of life and conduct. Kindly subscribe, touch the notification bell for updates on new uploads, like, share, and comment. Welcome to our today's video. It is a message to Dr. William Ruto after the prophecy that he will be the fifth president of the Republic of Kenya. Kindly, my wonderful people, subscribe, like, share, and comment. Message to Dr. William Ruto. As the fifth president of Kenya, allow me to remind you that the Jubilee win in 2013 and in 2017 was founded on a promise and a covenant with hustlers who propelled the Jubilee Party to leadership of this great nation. This covenant was not written with ink or on paper or even deposited with any legal entity, but was engraved in the conscience and the hearts of the majority of Kenyans who had seen an opportunity to have a hustler's jubilee that had evaded them since the independence promise. This jubilee was not the political party that formed the 2013 and 2017 government, but was a jubilee lifestyle for the marginalized hustlers since independence. The Jubilee covenant with hustlers was a divine mandate granted to all Ruto, but was not realized because the ranks and the files of our journey were infiltrated and adulterated by ill-advised involvement of foreigners, and I say foreigners in quotes. They were just foreigners to the Jubilee covenant. This covenant between the Jubilee leaders with the millions of hustlers was the force behind the 2013 Jubilee win against an international alarm call. Choices have consequences. It is the covenant that meant hustlers ignore the international threat and the fact that their choice of leaders were indicted in the International Criminal Court. Since taking over realms of power in 2013, the Jubilee government was consistent in actualizing the Jubilee covenant. And every time it was held to account by a very strong opposition led by His Excellency the former Prime Minister Raila Amolo Odinga. He held that government to account, and this was done in both houses and also done out of the houses. This came to an abrupt stop when President Uhuru made the greatest and regrettable leadership error and a decision of poisoning his party under the Jubilee covenant with the hustlers through the handshake that also destroyed the opposition. And this was sad, having a country that has no opposition. The party is now split into two functions, and the opposition has died a natural death. This occasioned the Aslas nation to suffer because their voice, which was aired very loudly by His Excellency the former Prime Minister, had come to a stop. And this gave birth to a fertile ground for formation of the unstoppable Asla Nation movement. Jubilee in the Bible is the year at the end of 7 cycles of sabbatical years, and according to biblical regulations, had a special impact on the ownership and the management of land and wealth in Israel. It was the year of equity, where all had their needs supplied. According to the book of Leviticus, Hebrew slaves and prisoners would be freed, debt would be forgiven, and the mercies of God would be particularly manifest. There were 3 distinct factors constituting the essential features of the Jubilee year in the Bible. Number 1 was personal liberty. Number 2 was restitution of property. And number 3 is what we might call the symbol life or the year of rest. This was the expectation of the Asla nation from the Jubilee administration. This was supposed to be the year of Aslas to be shown mercy and to be treated just like others who had a privileged background. This was the power behind the vote cast by the Asla nation to place the Jubilee government in power. The biblical Jubilee features would have been realized smoothly with Ruto combination. Privileged and non-privileged backgrounds would have sat and agreed on the freedom of the Asla nation without jeopardizing and differentiating the interest of any. This opportunity would also have provided a formula to give back all that which was grabbed from the Aslas nation, so as to work on bridging the gap between the poor and the rich, and lastly, make Kenya a land where all our population are at rest economically, socially, physically, and in all other ways of life. It is said by Franklin Roosevelt that the test of our progress is not whether we add more to the abundance of those who have much. It is whether we provide enough for those who have little. End of quote. The ground has shifted. A seat for the Aslas at the The ground has shifted. A seat for the Aslas at the national cake division table is non-negotiable. The Aslas are determined to influence all policy decisions and have raised their loudest voice to affirm that if not involved, then not for us. This is the Aslas moment, and let nobody confuse it with a constitutional moment. This seat in your government must be visible, Mr. Deputy President and the Fifth President of the Republic. Your Excellency, just take note that the Aslas won't entertain lip service or procrastination in implementing your agreement with them. They cannot wait a day later. It is either now or yesterday. As earlier indicated, the golden Aslas opportunity was lost, and the last hope for Aslas to realize their jubilee in Kenya as a lifetime for all is through your presidency, Dr. William Samoei Ruto, starting August 2022. The Aslas' determination will defy tribal manipulation and bribery. It will defy intimidation and threats. The Aslas spirit will ignore an arrangement that have previously been defining the politics in Kenya. This moment will give birth to a movement whose common denominator would be peaceful but unstoppable push for representation of the Asla nation at the table of decision, opportunity, and privileges. The moment will stop at nothing less than economic and political inclusion, where active participation in the distribution of the national wealth is done. The most exciting aspect about this moment is that it will sweep not only in the presidential elections, but also the governors, senators, members of National Assembly, and members of county assemblies. This moment is classless, non-tribal, faceless, and non-violent. It is a great privilege and honor to be entrusted by God to lead the affairs of such a magnitude, but you are equal to the task, Dr. William Ruto. May God measure the weight of the task so as to grant you equal grace, because there is no room for failure, compromise, or giving up. The Aslas are loudly verbalizing the words of Dr. Steve Mellabody when he said, and I quote, "The only permission, the only validation, and the only opinion that matter in our quest for greatness is our own. They will not take any excuse. Victory is a must." The Aslas' victory has some landmines, and if not checked and addressed, may stop or vitally injure the realization of the Aslas' dream. It was Martin Luther King Jr. who said, and I quote him, "Our very survival depends on our ability to stay awake, to adjust to new ideas, to remain vigilant, and to face the challenges of the change." Your Excellency the Fifth President, kindly take note that the road to realize the Aslas' dream isn't going to be easy. It is a reality that it will continually be met with sharp opposition from men and women who only currency of transacting their political business as being misuse of the Aslas nation through packing them in tribal sacks for political auction. This ugly face of our political transaction will be sneaked and in a revised standard version so that it may not be outrightly detected. The truth is, if it looks like a duck, swims like a duck, and quacks like a duck, then it probably is a duck. Your Excellency the Fifth President of Kenya and your team kindly note that some of the landmines you need to navigate in realizing the Aslas' dreams. These One of it is infiltration, is one of the landmines placed on the road of success of the Hustler's dream. It is important for the leadership of the Hustler's nation to seek divine wisdom of identifying spies sent by opposing parties in the name of defectors, but with a mission of carrying out secretive intelligence services for their masters. The infiltrating commandos will arrive via different acceptable routes and means by the Hustler leadership. Hence, it is important to use the political wisdom gained through many years in politics and also divine wisdom. I personally believe that total destruction of Jubilee Party was occasioned by being hoodwinked to grant senior party positions to persons secretly sent by opposing parties. I'm also equally convinced that those who infiltrated Jubilee were the bridge and masterminds of the handshake that, to my understanding, destroyed democracy in Kenya and gave way to painful economic times the hustlers are passing through. Infiltration is a landmine that the leadership of the hustlers moment must purpose to overcome and defeat. Infiltration is not going to happen through the village hustler, who are the majority, but will come through the enemy generals, who will seem to have surrendered and are willing to betray their former masters. But bottom line is that the willingness to betray one's master is a clear indication of repeating the same when the time becomes right. It is important still to state that infiltrating commandos are very patient and may postpone their mission up to after the 2022 Hustlers government is formed, so that then they may become thorn in the flesh of the Hustlers government and make it a one-term government. Party nomination has been a hot potato in Kenya political terrain. It is going to be the second landmine with potential of derailing the actualization of the Hustler's dream. This very important foundational process towards democratization has never been gotten right since the advent of multi-party democracy in Kenya. Party leaders, months to election, keep promising free and fair party primaries, but this has become an extremely elusive promise and the number one killer of trust of the electoral process. No single party has ever done this process right. Not because it is not doable, but just because party leadership, personal interest, and cronyism totally carry the day, disregarding the will of the people and rules and procedures as set out in the 2011 Electoral Act, which has attempted to streamline and regulate these party primaries. If this landmine is not checked, Your Excellency the Fifth President, if this landmine is not checked and detonated early, the Hustlers government is threatened, and the threat is real. A commitment from the Hustlers leadership has the potential of slaughtering this dragon, because mismanaged party primaries for the Hustlers party will be death before birth, and the Hustlers nation will forever never forgive the party leadership. It is commendable that party registration for the party membership in the Aslas party is going on online. And also, Your Excellency the Fifth President, you have clearly declared that you have no preferred candidate of any position, and that to be held, and that you should be held to account on the conduct of the party primaries. The risk of your undertaking is if the primaries are mismanaged, then there is no appeal. I trust God that wisdom in you and your political experience on the matter will cure and detonate this landmine called nomination in terms of parties. The Asla prayer is that the runs and files of your party, the UDA, will also allow the popular candidates carry the party flag in all positions, and that the word party leadership preferred candidate will never show up its ugly head at the Aslas party. If the Aslas party is going to show itself is the Aslas party going to show itself different? All Aslas wish it will, but time will tell. Party nomination landmine is a real threat to the Aslas dream. Your Excellency the Fifth President, under the Oda party, under the entire Oda party leadership. Cousin Ekweni, we are willing to help if called to. Unfulfilled promises is the final landmine, and this is going to be extremely lethal landmine, and the greatest letdown and disappointment to the Aslas nation if taken and assumed as a way of doing Kenya's political business. Your Excellency the Chief Asla, you are known for your assertion, kusema na kutenda. The Aslas nation cannot take any more stories in the name of election promise, which nobody is keen to see them through their fulfillment. What majority of politicians take lightly as words said during electioneering period to endear themselves to the electorate sadly touches on people's painful lived experiences and deep-seated looked for lifestyle solutions. To the Aslas this time, the promise meant will be a matter of life and death. Hence, they cannot be meant reckless, and once meant, Your Excellency, the Fifth President of the Republic, they must be fulfilled. The Bible says in Psalms chapter number 15, verse number 4, and I quote, "He who looks down upon a sinful person, but honors those who fear the Lord. He keeps his promises, even if it may hurt him." End of quotes. The Aslas nation has lived with thousands of unfulfilled election promises made by successive presidential candidates. Their plight has remained unaddressed since independence. This time they cannot live with another broken covenant. They are optimistic than they ever were, because this time the promise is being given them or meant by their own, who went to school hungry and without shoes, as they did, and therefore is a bond that cannot be broken. Your Excellency, Dr. William Ruto, and your fellow Aslas leadership, all majority are God-fearing. You should appreciate that God holds us to account on all promises and the vows meant, and specifically by those who claim to know Him. God honors those who make promises and fulfill them, even when it is hard to fulfill them. The Hustlers' leadership should know or needs to know early in their journey that promises meant to the Hustlers' nation is promise meant to God and must, and I repeat, must be fulfilled. Your Excellency, the Hustlers' dream, which you lead, is under serious threat of the landmines that have enumerated among others. These landmines will be the weapon which will be used by opponents in 2027 to cut short and impossible for good the Hustlers' celebration and hand over the Hustlers' nation back to terminal misuse and humiliation by their enemies. It will be short-sightedness to concentrate on 2022 elections without taking into account that for almost 58 years now, successive governments have not conclusively addressed the Hustlers' plight. The Hustlers' government must last longer than the years between today and when Kenya achieved our independence. The time of the Hustlers' moment or the tune of the Hustlers' moment cannot be played shorter. It must go beyond the year 2080, which will be 58 years after the first Hustlers' government takes power. Your Excellency, you are the choice of God. Surround yourself with godly and prayerful men and women. Seek divine counsel. The Hustlers' government is divine and must be managed in accordance to God's will. Thank you so much, my fans. Kindly subscribe, touch the notification bell for updates on new uploads, like, share, and comment. Looking forward to having part 2 of message to the 5th President. Thank you so much. Bye for now. Thanks.